Iran takes steps to implement this deal, it will receive relief from the sanctions that we put in place because of Iran's nuclear program. And if Iran violates the deal, all these sanctions will snap back into place. So there's a very clear incentive for Iran to follow through, and there are very real consequences for a violation.
Oh, he's drawing a red line. Never heard him do that before. They must be quaking in their boots in Iran. Joining us now, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, three-time Republican presidential candidate, and check him out at loyaltytoliberty.com, Alan Keyes. Hello, Mr. Ambassador. Good to talk to you, sir.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
All right. So your response to this so-called deal?
Well, everything I've been reading suggests that though he talks about lines being drawn and so forth, the deal actually gives Iran tremendous leeway to develop its nuclear weapons ambitions, and there's very little that is going to happen that's going to stop them. And what I find amusing is that I presume they wouldn't be negotiating the deal if sanctions had had the desired effect, right?
Yeah.
So he tells us that the sanctions not having the desired effect, this deal is going into place, and we're going to keep them to it with the sanctions that had no effect. I think that's laughable.
That's a very good point. Congressman Peter King was with us earlier, and he said this is going to spur a nuclear arms race. That's number two. Number one, he said, I mean, this is now going to fund Iranian-backed and sponsored terrorism throughout the world.
Well, I think that's precisely correct, but sadly, we have seen over the course of the last several years now, some of it obviously in secret, some of it open, where the Obama administration has been quite willing to reach out to people who are deadly enemies of the United States and the American way of life, in order to do things that I guess in their own estimation must promote their own political ambitions, because it's sure not doing the defense interest and security interest of this country any good. So it makes me wonder, and I think it makes a lot of people look askance at what we have in front of us. And finally, if this is going ahead without the involvement of the folks in the Senate and in the Congress, then I think that adds a scandalously anti-constitutional element to the whole business.
You, of course, having served as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, diplomacy comes to mind, and would it not have been almost a prerequisite under the administration in which you served, and almost any other American administration, that before you sit down with an enemy of this nature, and I don't even know if we call them our enemy, to negotiate this kind of deal, you almost, it's almost a no-brainer that you say, give us the 4 Americans back that you're holding before we even pursue this.
Well, I think those kinds of things are a prerequisite for being taken seriously. When you say, well, these are the terms of the agreement, we're going to see to it that they stick to it. If you sit down at the negotiating table without that kind of credibility, then you're going to get a result that is like the one this man has gotten. And I sincerely doubt that the Iranians feel very compelled to hold to it, because we have been acting and reacting under Obama's lack of leadership, as if we are folks who have no resolve. And who are so desperate to achieve an agreement that we don't care whether that agreement is in the best interest of our safety and our country.
Yeah. Let me move on to Donald Trump. What's your reaction to the reaction that he's been getting from the Republican Party and everyone in it?
Well, first of all, I think that the reaction Trump is getting from the grassroots is a clear sign that the betrayals by the GOP, what I call the quisling leaders in Congress, they haven't gone unnoticed. People around this country are angry and resentful, especially the base of the Republican Party, with the fact that we are looking at a GOP that has constantly promised resolve, firmness on budget issues, on security issues, on matters that have to do with immigration and so forth. And on every front, they have retreated. And I think for better or worse, and I think in some ways, I could talk about this, it's for worse, that Donald Trump is now speaking to that anger and resentment and exploiting it for his own purposes. The sad truth, however, is that what I hear from him, it voices the anger, it voices the resentment. It doesn't voice the deep serious concern that I've gotten over many years of working with people who were dismayed at the surrender of our sovereignty and our border security, not because they hated immigration or hated immigrants, but because they wanted to see this country secure and prosperous.
So are you saying,
and they didn't want it making false promises to people
we
from
only have,
overseas.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we only have 30 seconds. Are you saying his message is not on target? Are you saying that at all?
Well, I'm saying that his message is actually one that exploits anger and resentment instead of setting forward what I think was the positive purpose and remains the positive purpose of most Americans who aren't against immigration per se.
Gotcha.
They are against what's been happening
Gotcha.
to surrender our borders and our country.
Mr. Ambassador, great to talk to you as always, sir. Thank you very much. All right, folks, up next, senior political analyst for the Washington Examiner, Michael Barone. But first, we want your feedback. Let us know what you think of today's show and what we're talking about. Log on to newsmaxtv.com/comments. newsmaxtv.com/comments.